Okay, so have you heard about this movie? It's about the tallest man on Earth.
Really?
Yeah, and get this, it stars Jim Carrey.
Wow.
It's called The Tallest Man on Earth, Final Cut.
Huh, interesting.
And it's not just like a silly premise or anything. It really makes you think about perspective.
Like how we literally see the world.
Exactly, like how our viewpoint shapes everything.
I like that.
For this deep dive, we've got a ton of material, articles, reviews, behind-the-scenes stuff. We really dug deep on this one.
Well, the film dives right in visually too, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
That split screen opening showing Elliot Crane.
That's the tallest man, right?
Right, played by Carrey.
Right.
And then there's Victor Leclerc, this really
I thought he
intense
was going to beat her
character,
up.
played by an AI-generated John Malkovich. It's just so striking.
Oh yeah, it really grabs you right away. Elliot's trying to like fit into this world that wasn't built for him, you know, ducking under doorways and all that. But then you have Victor who kind of blends in, but he has this laser focus. What I thought was really interesting is they're both auditioning for this
I thought he was going to beat her up.
Goliath type role.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in a movie called Goliath and the Jester.
A title.
I know, right? And it's directed by this up-and-coming guy, Jeffrey A. Brick.
And there's this irony there.
Yeah.
Because they're both trying to avoid being typecast.
Oh, that's right.
Elliot, even though he really is a giant, he doesn't want to play the dumb giant.
Sure.
And Victor, well, he clearly doesn't want to be the sidekick.
Yeah, I get that.
And then there's that scene at Musso and Frank's.
Oh, so classic Hollywood.
I know, right? They're both there after the audition complaining about how limiting Hollywood is.
Yeah.
And guess who overhears them?
No way, Jeffrey A. Brick.
Jeffrey Brick himself.
Oh, wow.
But instead of like getting offended, he's totally intrigued.
Really?
Yeah, it's like he sees their frustration, their clashing personalities, and he thinks it's great.
Wow, so he's drawn to that.
Yeah, he sees it as raw material, and that's how they end up in Don Quixote retold.
And that's where the film gets really meta, right?
Exactly.
Elliot, as Don Quixote searching for meaning in a world that just doesn't understand him. Victor, as Sancho Panza, you know, the witty observer, you'd think that's just perfect casting.
Yeah.
But then there's this whole secret directing experiment going on.
Oh, yeah. Jeffrey believes that Elliot's impulsiveness is this pure creative energy,
Okay.
and that Victor's cynicism is all about control.
Interesting.
So he sets it up. So Victor is unknowingly directing the film.
Wait, hold on. So Victor is directing without even realizing it?
Yeah.
How does that even work?
Well, think about it. Elliot's dressed as Don Quixote, running around Hollywood mistaking sound stages for castles.
Wow.
He's completely lost in this fantasy world.
He's really going for it, huh?
Yeah, and at first, Victor's just trying to keep him grounded.
Sure.
But slowly, he's being manipulated into actually directing the scenes.
No way.
Oh, yeah.
That's wild. So when does Victor figure out what's going on?
There's this amazing camera shot where you literally see him shift from acting to directing.
Oh, wow.
He starts blocking shots, giving instructions,
He's taken over.
and then he confronts Jeffrey and demands to know what's happening.
I bet that was intense.
It was, and Jeffrey just says, "You're already doing it, keep going."
Whoa.
Yeah, pretty creepy, but also kind of brilliant.
Yeah, this whole film within a film thing is messing with my head.
Right. This brings us to like the core of the film's meta-narrative.
Yeah.
The producers who represent like the business side of Hollywood, they start to freak out.
They're not into it.
Not at all. They think the film is too weird, too radical,
Oh, no.
and they pull the funding.
So the whole thing just falls apart.
Pretty much. It was just too ahead of its time for Hollywood.
Too out there.
Yeah, and both Elliot and Victor are left in limbo. Their artistic vision is just gone.
That's heartbreaking.
It is. And this is where the film connects to real-life conflicts between artists and the industry.
Like Orson Welles fighting with the studios.
Exactly. It's a classic struggle. Trying to create something truly unique versus the pressure to just be commercial.
Yeah, it's timeless. So what happens next?
Decades later, we see how this whole experience has affected them. Act 3 takes us to Golden Gate Park. They bump into each other, both older now.
Golden Gate Park. That setting already feels symbolic.
Doesn't it? This huge space for thinking and reflection.
Yeah, for sure. So what are Elliot and Victor like now?
Well, Elliot's still a giant, of course,
Of course.
but he's been slowed down by age. And Victor, well, he's more of an observer now.
I see.
He's got this knowing smirk.
Like he's seen it all.
Yeah, and their conversation is full of regret missed opportunities.
That's heavy.
It is. You can feel the weight of it all hanging in the air.
So what about Don Quixote? Retold. Is it lost forever?
Well, Elliot reveals he kept all the film reels all these years.
He held onto them.
Yeah.
Wow. What about Victor?
Victor, the pragmatist says, burn them. Let's just forget the past.
Oh, wow.
But Elliot, there's still a spark in him. He wants one last screening.
He wants to see it again after all this time.
Yeah.
What happens when they watch it?
Watching that old footage, it's a turning point for them. You see, Elliot lost in his own world, his height, both this gift and this burden. He's searching for something more.
Right.
And Victor, he's taking charge, shaping the story, even though he didn't realize it at the time.
Wow.
It hits them both. The film wasn't about Don Quixote, it was about them.
Their own struggles, their journey, all on film.
Yeah, it's powerful stuff. And the final cut adds another layer to it.
Oh, really? How so?
It shows that this whole meta-narrative thing, the film within a film,
Right.
it was Jeffrey's plan all along.
So it was intentional.
Oh yeah, he was using Elliot and Victor as pawns in his own artistic game.
He was manipulating them.
Yeah, he saw their potential, their conflicts, and he thought, what if I create a situation where they make art without even knowing it?
That's kind of messed up.
It is, but it's also kind of genius, right? The film leaves you wondering, is Jeffrey a visionary or is he just exploiting them?
Yeah, it's a tough question.
That's the brilliance of it. It's morally ambiguous. You know, is he pushing boundaries or is he crossing lines? The film doesn't give you easy answers.
It makes you think. It's like the film itself is part of the experiment.
Exactly.
I'm wondering if I'm being manipulated by the director right now.
That's the point. It makes you think about art itself. Who's in control of the story? Whose perspective really matters?
Those are big questions.
They are, and they go way beyond just this one film.
That's for sure. But let's go back to Elliot and Victor for a second.
Okay.
How do they deal with this whole crazy experience?
Well, that's the heart of the film. They're wrestling with regret, missed chances, the burden of their decisions.
It's a lot to carry.
It is. They could have been part of something incredible, but it all fell apart.
And that feeling is even stronger because they're older now, right? They've had time to see how that moment affected their lives.
Yeah, there's a line that stuck with me. Victor asked Elliot, still playing Quixote, or have you finally found your windmill?
Wow, that's good.
It really captures that sense of aging, how our dreams shift over time.
Is Elliot still chasing those impossible dreams, or has he moved on?
The film doesn't tell us. It leaves that open.
Interesting.
It doesn't wrap things up neatly. It makes you think about your own life,
Yeah.
your own journey.
I like that.
It's not about easy answers.
It feels like the whole idea of height is about more than just being tall.
Exactly. It's about perspective itself.
Elliot's height lets him see more, but it also makes him more vulnerable.
Right.
Victor's grounded, he observes things carefully,
Yeah.
but maybe that limits him in some ways.
It's possible. The film isn't saying one perspective is better than the other.
Right.
It's about recognizing our own blind spots
Yeah.
and being open to different ways of seeing things.
And if we think about how we're part of this experiment as viewers, it's like the film is holding up a mirror to us.
I like that.
We have to examine our own roles in supporting power structures or accepting the stories we're told.
That's a powerful insight. The film isn't just about these two characters, it's about all of us.
Right.
How we experience art, how stories shape what we believe.
So for our listener who's now curious but maybe a little intimidated by this film, what should they keep in mind?
Don't be afraid to be uncomfortable. Don't expect everything to be explained.
Okay.
Let the film challenge you, make you question your assumptions. It's the kind of film that stays with you.
It makes you think long after it's over.
Exactly. It's like a puzzle box,
Oh, I like that.
and everyone unlocks it in a different way.
There's no right answer.
Right. Each viewer will find their own meaning in the layers of the film. It really pushes the boundaries of filmmaking, of storytelling, even of how we think about reality.
And that final shot of the Golden Gate Bridge, there's so much symbolism there.
Isn't there? The bridge itself is all about perspective.
How so?
Well, up close, it's huge, overwhelming.
Okay,
But from a distance, it's graceful.
that's true.
Just like our view of Elliot and Victor changes throughout the film.
Yeah, at first they seem larger than life.
Right.
Then we see their flaws, that their humanity.
By the end, they're like reflections of ourselves asking the same big questions about life. It makes you wonder if the film is a reflection of the filmmakers. Does that make us part of the experiment just by watching? It's like that fourth wall is shattered and we're suddenly involved in the film's exploration of art and control and perspective.
Mind blown. So why is The Tallest Man on Earth final cut worth watching?
It's more than just a movie, it's a conversation starter.
About?
About creativity, the power of stories, how we understand the world.
So for our listeners, what's the one thing you want them to pay attention to?
The details, the way the shots are composed, the use of light and shadow, the subtle things the actors do.
It's all intentional.
Everything is designed to pull you deeper into the story.
It's a film you need to watch more than once.
It is. Each viewing reveals something new.
It keeps giving.
Exactly. It's a film that makes you think, explore, find your own meaning in this rich story. Yeah, it really is. It goes beyond just a regular film.
Yeah, and that last shot of the Golden Gate Bridge, as the sun is setting, it just feels symbolic. Like it represents all these things, the unfinished film, their dreams slipping away.
It is interesting how the bridge itself, represents perspective.
Oh, so.
Well, depending on where you are looking at it from, it can seem totally different.
Uh-huh.
Like up close, it's massive.
Yeah.
Kind of overwhelming.
Yeah, that's true.
But then from far away, it's graceful, almost delicate.
Yeah, like our view of Elliot and Victor changes so much throughout the film.
Right.
At first they seem larger than life, and then
Then we see their flaws.
we see how human they
And
are.
by the end, they're like us. They're asking those big questions about life.
Yeah, totally. So this is something I've been thinking about.
Yeah.
If this film is a reflection of the filmmakers,
Right.
does that mean we're also part of the experiment just by watching?
That's a good question.
Are we being manipulated by Jeffrey just like Elliot and Victor were?
I mean, it's like the film breaks that fourth wall.
Right.
And it makes us think about our own role in this whole thing.
In this exploration of art and control and whose perspective matters.
Exactly. And that's what makes The Tallest Man on Earth Final Cut so thought-provoking.
It really gets under your skin.
Yeah, it's not just entertainment. It really makes you think about important things.
Like what?
Like the nature of creativity, the power of stories, how we see the world.
Big stuff.
It is. So for our listeners ready to check out this film, what's the one thing you'd want them to keep in mind while watching?
That's a good question.
Pay attention to the details.
Okay.
The way the camera frames the characters, the lighting, the subtle things the actors do.
It's all there for a reason.
Everything is carefully chosen to communicate something to pull you into the story.
It sounds like this is a film that you need to watch a few times to really get it.
It is. Every time you watch, you'll notice new things.
New layer.
Exactly. It's a film that keeps giving.
So it makes you think and explore and come to your own conclusions about this complex story.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
Well, I'm definitely adding this to my watch list.
Me too.
And for our listeners, you should too. The Tallest Man on Earth Final Cut is a really unique film. It'll stay with you and make you think, and maybe even change how you see the world.
And who knows, maybe it'll even inspire you to find your own perspective, your own way of understanding this crazy thing we call life.
Beautifully said. Well, that wraps up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep looking for those hidden meanings in everything you do.